Hello everyone, I'm Betsy and I am doing this video to help pipe fitters get ready for their math part of their exam. I've had many people actually ask me if I would take the time to do this. So I looked up some of the pipe fitter practice exams and got a couple exams from some people I know and took a look at them. And that's what I'm going to go through today. So this video is going to cover the adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing with fractions, doing percents, conversions, that kind of stuff. And then I'll do another video that covers the trigonometry, the sine, cosine, and tangent, and a little bit of geometry. So I do really hope this helps, and I wish you the best on your test. If there are any problems that I do that you feel that you need more of, just comment and I'll make sure I get some more up here for you. So let's get started. So number one, it says add 238 plus 251. Now, the way I like to do it is I like to write it vertically. 238 plus 251. Going to turn down that pen a little bit. All right, and just so you know, if there's no decimal in the number, the decimal is understood to be at the end. It really is there, even though it's not there, if that makes sense. All right, 8 plus 1 is 9. 5 plus 3 is 8. And 2 plus 2 is 4. So we get 489. Let's take a look at the next one. I've got 129. Again, if there's no decimals at the end. And I've got 15. Remember, we want to line up the decimals. That's kind of the reason I told you that it's at the end. It's too easy to write that 15 in the front. So if you remember to line up the decimals, it's less chance you're going to make that mistake. So 9 plus 5 is 14. We're going to carry up 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. And then I'm going to bring down the 1. Okay? So I did a couple addition, I'm going to do a couple subtraction, and I'm going to do a couple that actually do have decimals right in the problem, as you can see. And maybe at some point you might want to pause the video and try some of the problems on your own, and then just go back and see if you got them right. All right, let's take a look at number 2 here. It says 1,589, I'm going to put the decimal at the end, minus 297. Okay, so I've lined up my decimals. I'm going to do this one a different color so when we have to borrow, you can see it better. How about yellow? Stay bright, positive, right? We want to be positive. You're going to do well in this test. And I heard if you chew peppermint gum in that actually helps open up your brain a little bit more. So, hey, anything, you never know if it's going to help. Chew some peppermint before you test or have a mint. All right, we're subtracting. So 9 take away 7 is 2. 8 minus 9, I can't do that. So I got to borrow one. I'm going to take this and make it a 5 and make that an 18. So 18 take away 9 is 9. Now 4 minus 2 is 2, and I'm going to carry down the 1. Remember, you can check your answers too, so you can add these together. If I add these two, 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 plus 9 is 18. Carry the 1. 3 plus 2 is 5. And 1,589, just like we started with. So if you're not sure, just add them together and make sure you get the top number. All right, let's take a look at the next one. 2, 3, actually, let's go back to white. Let's go back to white. So let's erase that. 2,398, put the decimal at the end, minus, there's my decimal, 99. Okay, so go back to my yellow color. I can't take 8 minus 9, so I'm going to borrow 1 here and make that an 8. And make that an 18. 18 take away 9 is 9. Now that's an 8, so I'm going to have to borrow from that 3 by making it a 2. I'm going to change that color because that's hard to see. That becomes an 18. So 18 take away 9 is 9. And then 2 take away nothing is 2. And 2 take away nothing is 2. So 2398 minus 99 is 2299. Okay. Again, if you need to pause the video and try it yourself to make sure you get it right, please do so. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We're going to start by making sure that we line up our decimals. So I have 5.921. And to that, I'm adding 6.04. The decimals are lined up. And then I could put a 0 on the end here. I've got 3 numbers after the decimal in the first number, and now I got 3 numbers after the decimal in the second. It just keeps you from making a mistake. 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 4 is 6. 9 plus 0 is 9. 5 plus 6 is 11. And there you go. Okay? So what I'm stressing here is to make sure you line up the decimals. As a teacher, I teach high school math. That's one area where kids really struggle, and it's because they do forget to line them up. So it's just something to remember. Remember, you don't use this. Sometimes you forget, right? And then we got 0.67, 0.67. So I'm going to put a 0 here. And then I've got 1.87. My decimals are lined up. If you want to put a 0 there, you can. Just for placement, just if it helps you out. Now we can add. I'm going to get a different color here. Let's go with a light blue. Okay, 7 plus 7 is 14. I got to carry up that 1. 1 and 1 is 2, and 6 more is 8. Plus 8 is 16. Carry up the 1. 2, 3, 4. So you get 464. If you're having trouble with that, again, just send me a message and I'd be happy to do some more problems. And I do offer tutoring. If you would like some tutoring help, just send me a message and I can go over that with you. All right, you ready? Here we go. You got this. All right, we got 12.246. I'm going to bring my decimal down for the next one. I got the 0.5 here and the 8 here. And I'm going to make zeros for the other places. Do you have to do that? No. Again, I'm just doing it to make sure we don't make a mistake. Now, we are subtracting. So make sure you always start from the right end. 6 take away 0 is 6. 4 take away 5, we can't do that. We're going to have to borrow 1 here and make that a 14. 14 take away 5 is 9. And then I got 1 take away 0 is 1. Now, 2 minus 18, I'm going to have to borrow this, make that a 12. So 12 minus 8 is 4. And then there's nothing else there. So that's our answer. Are we okay there? Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Again, just pause the video whenever you need to take this in. I apologize if I'm going too slow, but I just want to make sure you understand. The Pipefitters test is important, right? So we want to make sure you truly understand this. So let's take a look at the next one. I got 47. We'll put a decimal at the end because there's no decimal. And we're subtracting. I'm going to line up the decimal. I've got 3, 5, 6, 4. And I'm going to put zeros in these spots. I'm subtracting. Okay. So now I'm going to get a different color. What should we go with this time? How about lavender? All right. So I can't take 0 minus 4, so I'm going to make this a 9. No, that's 10. 10 take away 4 is 6. 9 take away 6 is 3. I'm going to make that a 9 because I'm borrowing from here. 9 take away 5 is 4. 6 take away 3 is 3, and 4 take away nothing is 4. Now, again, if you're not sure your answer is correct, you want to check to see if you made a little mistake. Just add the bottom two together. They have to equal the top one. So when I add this, 4 plus 6 is 10. Carry the 1. 3 plus 6 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. Carry the 1. 9 plus 1 is 10. Carry the 1. 3 plus 3 is 6, and 1 more is 7. 0 and 4 is 4. That's what we started with, so we know we got the right answer. So if you need to check your answers, I don't know how much time you have for the test. There's one thing I didn't check to see is if your test is timed or not. But if you do have the extra time, hey, check it. Because one thing I noticed with a lot of tests, because I also teach ACT prep, is that they'll throw the answers off just a little bit by the common mistakes people make. So be aware of that. And also, if it is a time test or a test that you just don't know the answer, try to pick the same letter for the answers that you don't know. So if you want to pick B for Betsy, then everyone that you don't know, unless you're sure it's not B, use B, because statistically you'll get more problems right. I know they always say use C, but that doesn't make a difference. So that's kind of old school. So just pick one letter, unless you're absolutely sure that letter is not correct. Use it every time. All right. Have a backup letter if that happens. All right. So now I have a couple more to practice. And you may want to pause the video here and practice these on your own. 102.12. And remember what we're going to do. We're going to line up that decimal, right? So we've got my plus here, and there's the decimal. I got a 6 to the left of it, a 0, 8, 3. And then I'm going to put in zeros for placements. Actually, I'm going to move that plus sign over just a little bit. Oops, wrong color. Excuse me on that. I used a highlighter by mistake. 0, and we're adding. So we start from the far right when we add, right? We use a different color so that I can bring numbers over and you're able to see them. Okay, so 0 plus 3 is 3. 8 plus 2 is 10. I'm going to carry the 1. 1 and 1 is 2. Then I'm going to bring down that decimal. 6 plus 3 is 9. 2 plus 0 is 2. 0 plus 0 is 0. And 1 plus 0 is 1. And there you go. All right, let's do one more. And again, what do you do first? Line up those decimals. Yes. 21.3. I'm going to line up the decimal. And then I got 986. Like that. I'll put in my placements. I got nothing here and nothing here, and I'm adding. All right, so we're going to change the color again, just because I'm going to have to carry over, and I want to make sure you can see it. So 0 plus 6 is 6. 0 plus 8 is 8. 9 plus 3 is 12. I'm going to bring down the 2 and carry the 1. Then we got the decimal, so let's bring down the decimal. 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 plus 0 is 2. And we're done. All right, so now I know you can add and subtract decimals. All right, and again, if you need more practice on that, you just need to let me know. So let's go on to page 2. Page 2. Okay, let me put this at 100%. Bring it down here. I always tell my students, it's a test. If you have a bad test, that happens. It's okay. Don't Don't look at it as a bad thing because it's always a learning moment. So if you do have a bad test, look at it as, well, I'm going to do better next time. I know what I need to do, and I'm just going to do better. All right, I'm going to pause the video for a second while I find this second page. So hold on one second. All right. So again, we're done with adding and subtracting decimals and numbers. Now we're going to look at combining integers. And all an integer is any number that doesn't have a decimal, okay? So let's take a look at these. So I want to take 5 minus 24. So first of all, I want you to look at the two numbers. Let me get a color here. I've got the number 24. I'm going to circle the sign in front of it, and 5. Now, 24 is bigger than 5. When you look at the sign in front of the 24, it's negative, which means our answer is going to be negative when you combine them. So whichever number is bigger, I'm not talking about the sign, just the number. Whichever number is bigger, that's what the sign of your answer is going to be. All right? So one way to look at this, the signs are different. That's a negative 24, which is the same thing as a minus, and a positive 5. The signs are different, so all you have to do is subtract the numbers. 24 minus 5. And when we do that, we get 4 and 1 is 5, so we get 19. And because the 24 is bigger, it's negative 19. Another way you can look at that, negative 24, you're $24 in the hole. I give you $5. So now how much are you in the hole? $19. So if you need to look at it as money, look at it as money. Another thing I used to do when I was younger to remember them is to use a number line. So like for number 1 there, I'm thinking of that number line in my head. I start at 0 and I go forward 5 and then I turn around at that 5 and I go back 24. Where does that put me? It puts me at negative 19. So just different ways to look at it, right? Let's take a look at the next one. In the next one, again, I've got a positive 18 and a negative 5. The 18 is bigger and it's positive, so my answer is going to be positive. Now, the signs are different again. When the signs are different, just take the bigger number minus the small one. You already know the answer is positive. So 18 take away 5 is 13, and that's your answer. Okay? So the first thing to remember is to look at the two numbers when you're adding and subtracting. Whichever number is bigger, not counting the sign, then look at the sign, and that will be the sign for your answer. All right, let's take a look at the next one. What do we got here? I'm going to change that color again. I don't want to change it too much because that can get annoying too. All right, I've got -2 minus a -8. When you have a double negative like that, if I hit the wrong button, you are going to change that to a positive. So when you have a double negative, right together like that, you just change it to a plus. And now you got -2 plus 8. 8 is bigger than 2, so your answer is going to be positive. Now, the signs are different, so just subtract them. 8 minus 2 is 6, and you're done. All right? This might be a spot where you want to pause the video and try a couple on your own. I'm going to keep going here. Let's take a look at the next one. I want you to remember when you're adding numbers, you're only adding 2 numbers at a time, okay? So when I look at 5 minus 7 plus 10, I'm going to start from the left because you always want to start from the left of the problem. And I'm going to combine the first 2 numbers first. So when I look at those first 2 numbers, I have 5 and -7. Now, 7 is bigger than 5, and the 7 has a minus in front of it, so my answer is going to have a minus. Since the signs are different, that's a +5 and a -7. Again, a minus and a negative are the same thing. 7 minus 5 is 2, so my answer there is -2. To that, I need to come and bring this +10 down. Now when I look at the problem, I have a -2 and a +10. 10 is bigger than 2. I look at the sign in front of it, it's positive. So my final answer will be positive. Again, the signs are opposite. So I got 10 minus 2 is 8. So the final answer here is 8. Okay? How we doing? Everybody doing okay? I can't stress enough that if you're having trouble, to send me a message, put it in a comment. I'll make sure I keep track of it. I know how important this test is for many of you, and I want to help you. I was really excited when a few of my friends asked me to do something like this. So they care, you know, I love when people care. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Okay, so I'm going to get down to, let's take this color. Let's go with a different color, one we've already used. Okay, we're going to look at the first two numbers. I've got a -1 and a -4. 4 is bigger than 1. The sign in front of the 4 is negative. So my answer, when I combine those two, it will be negative. Now, you see they're both negative. When they're both negative, just add the two numbers. 4 plus 1 is 5. So when the signs are the same, add the numbers. Another way to look at that is you have 1 negative, and I give you 4 more negatives. Now you have 5 negatives. Okay? And then we're going to bring down the -11. Again, I'm going to take a look at what I have here. I have 5 negatives, and I've got 11 negatives. 11 is bigger than 5. The sign in front of the 11 is a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. All right, if this is a multiple choice test, and some of the tests I looked at, there was multiple choice, well, you'll be able to throw out any positive answers because you already know the answer has to be negative. Think like that too. Like when I teach ACT to students, I always tell them, let's look at which answers we can throw out first. So always keep that in mind. And you know, when we review, I always look at the answers before I do anything else. Then I read the problem out loud. And you see me how I read the problems out loud. I do that for a reason. When you read the problem out loud, it sticks in your head. And you know what you actually know better what you're looking for. So think about that when you're doing it. Any little thing that I think can help, I'm going to tell you guys and women and everybody else who's doing this test. I shouldn't say it like that. So to all of you, all right, 5 negatives and 11 negatives gives me 16 negatives. So if you're 11 in the hole and you go and buy something for $5, now you're 16 in the hole. Or the signs are the same, so you add the numbers. 11 plus 5 is 16. You already know the answer is negative. You got it. Whew. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We're adding 2 numbers at a time. So let's take a look here. So I've got 9 plus 9. Same sign, so it's the same. So that's 18 minus 1 minus 6. Now, 2 numbers at a time, starting from the left. We got 18 and we've got -1. 18 is bigger, so we know that the answer is going to be positive because it's a positive 18. 18 take away 1 is 17 minus 6. Again, I've got 17 positives and 6 negatives. The answer is going to be positive because the 17 is positive. And 17 take away 6, 11. And that's your final answer. All right. I hope this was helpful. Again, you can also do the number line in your head. I don't know, when I was young, I started with the number line, and that's always been in my head. Whenever I do these problems, I'm walking, I'm on the number line. So maybe that'll help you, maybe it won't, but I'm trying to give you different methods to make this a little more easier to understand. All right, let's take a look at what we have next. All right, so now we're going to look at dividing decimals. So when I look at that first problem, it's 3.82 divided by 1.6. All right, 3.82 divided by 1.6. So I'm going to write this so that we can do the long division. So I got 1.6 Inside, I've got to 3.82. And right away, I'm going to line up that decimal. Okay? So actually, let's wait on that. Hold on one second. I want to go back a second. So first I'm actually going to do, I've got a decimal on the outside, so I'm going to move that decimal all the way to the end. So that's one place, which means I got to move this decimal one place. Okay? So it's going to line up right there. So now my problem is 16 into 38.2. So the first step really is to take the decimal from the outside and move it to the far right end. How many places you move it to get it to the end, that's how many places you moved the number underneath the division sign. All right, so now 16 doesn't go into 3, but 16 will go into 38 2 times. 16 times 2 is 32. If you want to put the 0 there because it doesn't go into that, you can. Now we're subtracting. So 38 minus 32 is 6. I'm going to bring down the next number. Put some zeros here. Now, 16 goes into 62. Put the decimal up there because that's where we're at. 16 goes into 62. I don't need to put the decimal there. Hold on. Oops, I'm erasing. Sorry about that, you guys. I screwed that up. Okay, meant to put the decimal up here. All right, so I brought down the 2. So 16 goes into 62 3 times. That's 48. Now, I want to subtract these. So remember, I got to borrow from this 6 and make that a 5. 5 take away 4 is 1. 12 from there, 2, and 6 more, that's 14. Now I got to bring down a 0. 140. So how many times will 16 go into 140? 8 times. 8 times 16, let's see what that is. 16 times 8 is 128. And we're subtracting, right? Everybody okay so far? All right, let's go on down here. So I'm going to borrow again, all right? Let's take a minute and look at it. I don't want to rush this. That becomes a 3, that becomes a 10. 10 take away 2 is 2. 3 take away 1 is 1. So now we're going to bring down another 0. All right? So now we have 120. How many times is 16 going to 120? I'm doing it on my calculator right here, just so you know. So I'm using a calculator too. 7 times. And 7 times 16 is 42. Carry up the 4, that's 111. And if you take 120 minus 112, that's 8. And then we're going to have to add another 0 and bring that 0 down, and we get 80. And 16 goes into 80 5 times. 16 times 80 is 5, and there we're at 0. So if you multiply 2.3875 by 1.6, you will get, or 16, excuse me, you'll get 38.20. Okay? Let's do another one. So we got 12.1, and we're going into 254.38. So the first thing we do, what do we do first? We don't want a decimal on the outside, so we're going to move it to the end. Move it to the end. We do that, that means we moved it one place, we got to move this decimal one place. So now our problem is 121 into 2543.8. Got to put the decimal right there. All right. So 0.38 divided by. Okay, I just want to have the math there for us. All right, so 121 will not go into 2. 121 will not go into 25, but 121 will go into 254, and that will go in there 2 times. 2 times 124 is 242. Okay, take a moment and look at it. Okay, now we're going to subtract. Put a 0 here. 3 take away 0 is 3. 4 take away 2 is 2. 5 take away 4 is 1. And we're going to bring this down. So I've already brought down the next number, okay? Actually, I didn't need to put a 0 there. I could have just brought this down. So 123, how many times does that go in there? That goes in there 1 time. That's 121. When I do that, I bring the 2 down. Then my next number to bring down is the 8. 121 does not go into 28, so I put the 0 there. I'm going to add another 0, bring it down. 121 into 280 goes 2 times, so that'd be 242. 242. We subtract that, and we got to borrow, right? So we got to change that to a 7. 10 take away 2 is 8. 7 take away 4 is 3. And then we got to bring down another 0. So we got 380. And how many times will 121 go into 380? 3 times. So we get 363. I'm going to have to add another 0. So when I do this, I got to borrow again, make that into a 7. 10 take away 3 is 7. 7 take away 6 is 1. I'm going to bring down another 0. That gives us 170. Well, 121 can only go into 170 one time. So that's 121. And when I subtract that, I get 6. 10 take away 1 is 9. 6 take away 2 is 4. And then we're going to bring down another 0. And how many places do you have to keep going? It depends on how many places they want the answer. All right. So if they want you to round the answer to the tens position, that's right after the decimal. So this is tenth, then it's hundredths, and then it's thousandths, and then 10,000ths, and so on. So it depends after the decimal what they want you to round to. Let's do one more place. So if I do the next place, 490, that would be 4. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And 4 times 1 is 4. So that's 484. And we have a remainder. 90 take away 84 is going to be a remainder of 6. And you can write the remainder as 6 over 121. All right, that's a good way to write your remainder. Or just remainder 6. You could just put an R6 too. Just depends on how they want the answer. All right. All right. So now I've got a couple more problems here. I'm going to erase some of this to get it out of our way. So let me erase a little bit. How are we doing? Don't worry about making mistakes, you guys. Just have fun with it. All right. It is what it is. You just do the best you can and you learn. And maybe the best you can is all you needed, probably even more than you needed. Sometimes though, I know, we know how important this test is. I'm just trying to make you realize that, if you're doing the best you can, that's all anybody expects. Okay, let's put up the next problem. Okay, so I got 2.5 divided by 1.2. So 1.2 into 2.5. Okay, first step, move the decimal on the outside to the far right. So here's the decimal. I got to move it one place, which means I got to move this one place. So now my problem becomes this. All right. You want to put some zeros there? Go ahead. All right. So 12 does not go into 2. 12 goes into 24 twice. Or, yeah, 12 goes into 25 twice. It goes in there 24 times. 25, take away 24 is 1. I don't need that decimal there. I don't know why I keep putting it there. I'm going to bring down the next number. I'm going to put that decimal there. 12 does not go into 10. Goes in 0 times. So now I'm going to bring down another 0. 12 goes into 100 how many times? Well, 12 times 8 is what? Do you guys know? 96, right? So it goes in 9 times. Or 8 times, excuse me. 8 times. That gives you 16. Carry the 1. That gives you 96 with 4 remainders. If you want to keep going, just keep adding a 0. 12 goes into 40 3 times. That's 36. You're going to keep getting that number. So this number is going to repeat. All right, it's going to keep going 3 and 3 and 3 and 3. So when you write a repeating number, you put a bar above the number that's repeating. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the next one. Maybe pause the video and do the next one on your own. So we're dividing by 15, so the 15 goes on the outside. We got 3653.12. 3653.12. All right, so there's no decimal on this outside number, so we're not moving the decimal. I'm going to leave it right there. All right. Will 15 go into 3? No. Will 15 go into 36? Yes, 2 times. 2 times 15 is 30. So now I'm going to bring this 36 minus 30 is 6. Bring down the next number, 5. 15 goes into 65 4 times. 4 times 15 is 60. Bring down 5. 65 minus 60 is 5. Bring down your next number, 3. 15 can go into 53 3 times. That's 45. Okay. 53, take away 45. Okay, let's do our math here. I'm going to use a different color. I'm going to change that to a 4. That becomes a 13. 13 minus 5 is 8. Then we're going to bring down our next number, which is 1. 15 goes into 81. 5 times, that'd be 75. 5 times 15 is 75. Again, 81 take away 75 is going to be, let's do the math. I don't want to just skip that step. Make sure you got it. So we're going to put a 1 here, make that a 7. 11 take away 5 is 6. Okay. Then we're going to bring down the next number, which is a 2. And 15 goes into 62 4 times. That's 60. Which gives us 2. And then if you want to keep adding zeros, you can do that. 15 goes into 20 1 time. 15 times 1 is 15. 20 minus 15 is 5. Bring down another 0. 15 into 50 goes 3 times. That's going to give you 3 times 15 is 45. And you're going to start repeating, right? Because you're going to get 50 again when you bring down the 0. So that 3 is going to repeat. All right. And if they tell you to only round it to the 10th position, then all you need to go is to this number. If it's 5 or more, round that number up. You know, there are different rules for rounding. Some will say that if the number before this is even, leave it. If it's odd, round it up. It just depends on what rule you're using. All right. But you don't have to keep going if you're just going to round the number. Okay, 3.6 into 9. Now, again, we want to do what first? Move the decimal, right? So let's move the decimal. I'm going to get a different color. So I'm going to move it one place to get it on the end. Remember what I told you in the beginning of the videos, if there's no decimal, it's at the end. So we need to move that one place. And we get that. So the decimal's right here. So now I have 36 into 90. Ooh, I did that one. Oh, I did that one backwards, you guys. Ugh. Do you see that? I did that backwards. No, no, I didn't. 9 divided by 3.6. I did it right. What's with me? Usually I'd stop the video and redo it, but I'm not going to. I make mistakes too, right? That's okay. All right, let's take a look at this one. So 36 into 90 goes 2 times. There's my decimal. That's 12. That's 6, 12, 72. Now 90 minus 72, I can borrow here, make that an 8. That's a 10. So that's 18. So bring down the 0, that's 180. So 36 into 180 is 5. 30, that's 180. And you get 0. Okay? I actually like it when I make mistakes because it shows that, even though I've been teaching math forever, I'm not perfect either, right? None of us are. So, all right, let's take a look at the next one. Good excuse for making a mistake, right? All right, so I got 44.1 divided by 0.7. So I'm dividing by 0.7. 44.1. Now, first thing, we got to move that decimal to the end, which means I got to move that one spot. So now we have 7 into 441. You want to put the decimal there, you can put the decimal there. Everybody got that? Are we okay? All right, let's go on. So 7 does not go into 4, but 7 will go into 44 6 times. That would be 42. So I'm going to bring down the 42. And then subtract that, I get 21. 7 goes into 21 3 times, and we get 0. So it's just 0.63 points, such as 63 for an answer. Okay? You don't have to, even in this answer, we don't need to, that's not going to be part of the answer. It's going to be 243.54. All right? All right. That's division. Now the next thing we're going to do is multiplying decimals. So stay with me. If you need to take a break, just stretch a little bit. Maybe walk around, grab some chocolate. I like chocolate. Grab some peppermint because that, again, that's what I heard is that it's good for you. To just take a break if you need to take a break. All right, I'm going to get the next slide ready for us. All right, now that we're done dividing decimals, now we've got to multiply decimals. I like to put the number that has more digits on the top. Doesn't mean you have to. So let's look at this first one. It's 4 times 2.5. So I'm going to ignore the decimals for now. We're just going to write 25 times 4. Okay? We do 25 times 4, and I know you know it's 100, but we're going to do it anyways. 5 times 4 is 20. Carry up the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 more is 10. Now we got to look at that decimal. And that decimal, we have one decimal total between the two numbers. It's right here. It's one place to get to the end. So we go to the end of the problem. The decimal's at the end right here, right? We move it back 1. All right. So it's one place to the left. So our answer is 10. And you're going to see more what I mean by that when we do the next one. Because the next one, we have 5 decimals, places 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to be moving our answer back 5. So watch this. So I got 125. You see, I'm doing it without the decimals, times 24. Again, I got to use a different color because of the borrowing. I want to make sure you see it. So 5 times 4 is 20. Carry up the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 more is 10. Carry up the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, and 1 more makes 5. Okay? Now we've got to do the same thing with the 2, but we've got to move over a spot when we start. So I'm going to put a mark there. Now, we have 5 times 2 is 10. Carry up the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 is 5. And then 2 times 1 is 2. Okay? Now, when we combine these, we get, well, let's start from the left. 0, 0, 10, carry up the 1, 3. We get 3,000. All right? Now, think about what I said about the 5 places. What do I have to do? We've got 5 places, so we have to move the decimal that's at the end 5 places to the left. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's where the decimal is going to be. So my answer is actually going to be 0.03. Okay, so what did we learn here? We learned that we don't need to worry about the decimals until we're done multiplying the numbers. All right, and then once we're done multiplying the numbers, we count how many decimal places we have. Then we go to our answer and we go to the left that many decimal places. So let's take a look at number 3. Without the decimals, 21 times 9. When I do that, 9 times 1 is 9. 2 times 9 is 18. Now I look at how many decimal places. We got 1 here, 1 decimal place. I'm going to change the color again. 1 place. So I go to the end of the problem and I move the decimal 1 place to the left. So my final answer is 18.9. How are we doing? And think about it. The answer has to make sense. 2 times 9 is 18. So it's not going to be much more than that. All right. Just like in that first problem, 4 times 2.5. Well, 4 times 2 is 8. So the answer is not going to be much more than that. So if you're getting 100 for an answer, it's not possible. Does your answers make sense? Do your answers make sense? Excuse me. All right. What do we got here? 24.5 times 12 plus 3. We have that thing called PEMDAS. Do you guys remember that? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally from high school. Well, that tells us that we are going to multiply or divide before we add or subtract, and we start left to right. So we're going to start at the left here, and we're going to multiply 245, I'm ignoring the decimal, times 12. Okay, let's multiply that. 5 times 2 is 10. Carry up the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, and 1 is 9. 2 times 2 is 4. Now we leave this spot blank here, and we start 1 over. 5 times 1 is 5. 4 times 1 is 4. And 2 times 1 is 2. So when I combine those, I got 0, 9, and 5 is 14. Carry the 1. 8 and 1 is 9. And a 2. Now I got to look at how many decimal places we're looking at. There's 1 to get to the end. So I have to come to the end and move the decimal place 1 place. So I got 294. And to that, I've got to add 3. So remember, that's where the decimal is now. With the 3, the decimal's at the end. Every number has a decimal, even if it doesn't show up, it's at the end of the problem. All right, so now when I add these, 4 and 3 is 7. Bring down your 29, and it's 297. Ta-da! How are we doing? So that's what I got for you from multiplying decimals. If you need more, again, just put it in the comments, and we'll do some more problems. Let's move on. All right, where are we going next? Okay, We're done with our decimals. We're done with our integers. And again, integers are just numbers without decimals. Even though, again, like I said, in reality, there's a decimal for every number it's at the end. But you know what I mean. All right, now we're going to take a look at fractions and what we need to know about fractions. So, first of all, I want to make sure you understand this because I saw this in your practice problems also. A mixed number is a number and a fraction. You see how 4 and 3/5? You got the number 4 and you got a fraction 3/5. When you put them together, it's called a mixed number. Okay? Improper fractions, the bigger numbers on top. You got 15 and 7, the bigger numbers on top. And the top number is called your numerator. The bottom number is called your denominator. Okay, numerators on top, denominators on the bottom. A proper fraction is what you usually see when you're doing measurements in that 3/4, 2/3. Smaller number on top, larger number on the bottom. And again, with that, you just got to remember that the top number is your numerator, the bottom number is your denominator. So it's a numerator over a denominator. Numerators on top, denominators on the bottom. And remember, all a fraction is division, okay? Now, before we go on, I want to make sure that you understand negatives. So what I show you in this example here, I've got -7/2, or -7/2. You can write that by putting the negative right out in the center, or you can write it with the negative in the bottom. There's no difference. They mean the same thing. It doesn't matter where you put the negative sign. And I just want to make sure you know that. All right? So let's take a look at the first problem here. 5/9. The smaller number is on top. We want to know, is this a mixed number? Is it an improper fraction? Or is it a proper fraction? When the smaller number is on top, it's a proper fraction. Okay. The next one, you've got the bigger number on top. When the bigger number is on top, it's an improper fraction. Let's look at the next one, -4/3. All right, first of all, I'm just going to put the negative here. And then we have 4/3. The bigger number is on top. I'm not looking at the negative sign. I'm just looking at the numbers. The bigger number is on top, so that's an improper fraction. I purposely put that in there because I want to make sure you saw that. You're just looking at the number, not the negative sign. 1 and 2/9, well, you have a number and you have a fraction. So it's mixed, right? It's a mixed number. Let's take a look at the next one. Again, the negative, I'll just put it out here. You've got a big 3 on top, a smaller 2 on the bottom. A big number over a little number, it's an improper fraction. Let's look at the next two. 5 and 11/15. Well, that's a number and a fraction, so it's a mixed number. And the next one, you got a number and a fraction, you got a mixed number. It's mixed, right? You got a number and then you got a fraction put together. Okay, you're going to need to know that, especially when we're doing story problems and that, it's really important that you understand that. And that we're going to do some actual word problems in that in the next video. This, again, is just your fractions and your decimals and your percents and a little bit of conversions, okay? And maybe a little bit of other stuff I put in here too. Again, I'm just looking at old tests. That's how I did this. I see that you don't have a review up. I don't see many reviews up since like 2023, 2022. So I just wanted to look at the tests, look at the practice tests, and make up my own from there. So I really do hope this is helpful to you guys. All right, let's take a look at what's next. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our fractions and reduce them. And why do we reduce fractions? Because we always like working with smaller numbers. It's easier. So that's really the reason we reduce fractions. So let's take a look at our first number here, our fraction. We got 8 over 12, and I want to reduce that. So I asked myself, what's the biggest number that goes into 8 and 12? So if I'm looking at the 8 here, well, 2 goes into 8, 2 goes into 12. 4 goes into 8, 4 goes into 12. 8 goes into 8, but 8 doesn't go into 12. So the best I'm going to be able to do is divide the top and bottom by 4. As long as you do the top and bottom, you're not changing it. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And you just reduce that fraction. Ta-da! All right. Remember, if the number on the top and bottom are both even, you know at least 2 goes into both of those numbers. And if you're having trouble determining if something else does, first reduce it by 2 and then look at it from there. Let's take a look at the next one, 26 and 14. This is a good example of this. 2 goes into both of them. So let's just start by dividing both of them by 2. They're both even numbers. When I do that, 26 divided by 2 is 13, and 14 divided by 2 is 7. Now, 13 and 7 are both prime numbers, which means the only thing that goes into 13 is 13 and 1. And the only thing that goes into 7 is 7 and 1. So I can't reduce that any further. All right. I can make it into a mixed number, though. So why don't we do that? So to make it into a mixed number, you look at the denominator, the bottom number, and you ask yourself, how many 7s will fit into the top number? So how many 7s will fit into 13? One of them. All right. And how many numbers are left over after that? Well, after 7, you got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You got 6 left. So 6 7s. All right. So you look at the denominator, how many 7s can fit into 13, and then what's left. All right, let's take a look at number 3. Again, we got some big numbers here. So I think what I'm going to do is try to make these numbers smaller first. And how am I going to do that? They're both even, so I'm going to just go ahead and divide by 2 right from the start. So let's divide both of these by 2. And then we'll take a look at what else we have. 84 divided by 2 is 42. Over 504 divided by 2 is what, 252? Right? So now that we have that, now we can still divide more because we know that 2 goes into both of those. And you can keep going down by 2, or you can look for something bigger that goes into both of them. Just for practice, I'm going to keep going down by 2. I'm not going to look for anything bigger. 2 goes into both of them. 2 into 42 is 21. And 2 into 252, 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 5 twice. That's 126. Now, I got 21 and 126. 21 goes into 21 one time. 21 goes into 126 6 times. So I can reduce the top and bottom by 21 now. So 21 goes into 21, and 21 goes into 126. It goes into itself once, and it goes into 126 6 times. So we just reduce that to 1/6. And think about it. What's better to work with, 1/6 or 84 over 504? You know, it makes sense to reduce your numbers. All right, what do we have here? Here we've got a mixed number that we're going to reduce. So I'm going to leave the 3 alone on the outside, all right? I'm not going to mess with the 3 on the outside. So we're going to just reduce the fraction. That's what we want to reduce. So 12 and 16. So what goes into 12? 2 goes into 12, 2 goes into 16. 3 goes into 12, but 3 does not go into 16. And when I mean goes into it, that means it'll divide without a decimal. There's no remainder. 4 goes into 12, 4 goes into 16. 6 goes into 12, 6 will not go into 16 evenly. So 12 goes into 12, 12 will not go into 16 evenly. So I think the biggest number we're going to find here is 4. So I'm going to divide the top and 4 by bottom by 4. I'm going to bring my 3 over. I'm not doing anything with that. I'm just reducing the fraction. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And there's your answer. Okay. All right. I have some for you to try. So that'd be awesome if you just mute or pause the video and took a few minutes and tried these to make sure that you can do them. All right. So go ahead, try them. Okay. For this next one, I've got a minus there, a negative. I'm just going to leave it there. And I've got 18 and 33. Another little trick I want to tell you. If you can add the numbers like 1 and 8 is 9, 3 and 3 is 6. Well, if 3 goes into 9 and 3 goes into 6, you can divide the top and bottom by 3. So let me explain that again. I've got 18 over 33. I'm going to do a different color. When you add the two numbers, 1 plus 8 is 9. 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 goes into 9, 3 goes into 6, which means that 3 goes into 18 and 3 goes into 33. It works with 3s, okay? So I'm going to divide the top and bottom by 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 33 divided by 3 is 11. And 11 is prime. Nothing else goes into 11, so I'm done. You see how I just carried the negative sign over? All right? All right, let's look at the next one. La, la, la. Do, 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 do. Okay, 5 and 2 12s. Well, the only thing that goes into 2 other than 1 is 2, so all we can do is reduce by 2. So I bring over the 5. 2 into 2 is 1. 2 into 12 is 6. So you get 5 and 1, 6. The next one, what goes into 14? 2 goes into 14 evenly, but 2 doesn't go into 21. 7 goes into 14, and 7 goes into 21 evenly. 14 goes into 14, but 14 doesn't go into 21 evenly. So the biggest number that's going to go into both of those is 7. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 21 divided by 7 is 3. And there's my answer. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next one. The next one, what kind of fraction is that? Is it a proper fraction or an improper fraction? What do you think? You are right. It's improper. The bigger number's on top. Woo! All right, let's keep going. Now, when I look at that 14, I always look at the smaller number. Will 2 go into 14? Yes, and 2 will go into 38. What else goes into 14? 7 goes into 14, but it doesn't go into 38. 14 goes into 14, but it doesn't go into 38. So the best we can do here is 2. So let's divide the top and bottom by 2. When I do that, 38 divided by 2 is 19. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So now we're going to change it from an improper fraction to what? Do you remember what that's called? We're going to have a number and a fraction when we're done. It's mixed, so we got a mixed number. So I'm going to ask myself, how many 7s will fit into 19? 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21. So 3 is too high. So we can do 14, so 2. And 19 take away 14 is 5. And then you just put that over or with the denominator underneath it. And you're done. All right. This will become very handy to you when we're multiplying fractions. So please try to make note of this. All right, let's move on. We're getting there, all right? We're getting there. You can do this. Okay, now that we know how to reduce fractions, now we're going to multiply fractions, and we're going to use reducing to do so, all right? So we have 6 over 15 times 21 over 20. When you reduce, it's any top with any bottom. And we want to reduce because we want to use smaller numbers. So what can I reduce? Well, if I just look at the 6 and the 15, 3 goes into both of them. 3 goes into 6 2 times, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. So I've already made that smaller. Now, what else can I do? Let's look at that 21 and 20. Is there anything I can do using that? Well, I can't reduce the 21 and 20 because there's no number that goes into both of them. But I can reduce the 2 on the top with the 20 on the bottom. Remember, any top with any bottom. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 20 10 times. When I look at this 5, will 5 go into 21? No. So I'm done. So now all you have to do is multiply straight across the top. 1 times 21 is 21 over 5 times 10 is 50. And you are done. Multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. Do not cross multiply. You only cross multiply when you have a proportion. There would be an equal sign between the fractions. All right? You're multiplying across the top and across the bottom. All right, let's take a look at the next one. What can we reduce? Looks like we can do a lot of things. Let's do it. All right, so it doesn't matter which top or which bottom. So let's get a little crazy here. I'm going to say 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 26 13 times. I could have done the 2 and the 30. I just want to be different. All right, now, how about that 5? Will the 5 go into any of those bottom numbers? Yes, 5 goes into 5 once, and 5 goes into 30 6 times. Numbers are getting smaller. That's what we want. Now, how about that 11? 11 and 44. 11 goes into 11 once, and 11 goes into 44 4 times. Okay, I don't know what happened here, but my cord stopped working. I'm going to have a pause here in the video because I froze. Do, 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 do. All right. So we froze there on the video for a second. So now I can do more though. If you look at this, I've got a 6 on the bottom and a 4, and this is a 4. 11 into 44 goes 4 times. So I got a 6 on the bottom and a 4 on the top. They're both even. So I can reduce that by 2. 2 goes into that twice. 2 goes into that 3 times. Now, these are all ones. So there's nothing I can do with those. We're done with them. So all I have left on top is 1 times 1 times 2, which is 2. And on the bottom, I have 1 times 3 times 13, which is 39. And we're done. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the next one. 2 1/3 times 4 over 7. We're taking a mixed number times a fraction. To do that, you need to turn that mixed number into an improper fraction before you multiply, all right? So 2 1/3. To do that, you take the number on the outside and you multiply it by the denominator, the bottom number. That gives you 6. And then you add the top number. That gives you 7. So I'm going to rewrite this as 7 over the denominator of 3. I'm going to times that by 4 over 7. I like to use a dot for times. I'm just used to it more. But it doesn't make a difference. All right, so now I can reduce. 7 goes into 7 once. 7 goes into 7 once. And I get 4 over 3. Now we can make that back into a mixed number. How many 3s fit into 4? 1. And we have 1 left over. And that's my final answer. Ta-da! Okay, now we've got issues in the next problem also because we've got a mixed number, which we need to make into, yes, an improper fraction. And we've got that 12 sitting there. So we're going to make that 12 into a fraction also. And how do we do that? We just put a 1 underneath it. So I got 12 over 1 times. Now, 2 4/5. 2 times 5 is 10. And add the top, 14, over the denominator. And then we got times 3/8. So let's see if we can reduce this at least a little bit. All right. So let's do the 14 and the 8. 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 14 7 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times. And now we can do a little more because we can do the 12 and the 4. I can reduce those. 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 12 3 times. Okay. Now, can we do anything else? I got a 5 left on the bottom, and I've got a 3, a 7, and a 3 left on top. So I don't see what else I can do other than multiply. So when you multiply, 3 times 7 is 21, and then times that by 3, and you get 63. On the bottom, you got 1 times 5 times 1, which is 5. All right. Now, how many 5s fit into 63? Well, 12 times 5 is 60. So 12 do. And we have 3 left over the denominator. Okay. You always want to simplify your answers down to as small as you can. And simplifying means making your improper fractions into mixed numbers. Now we got to divide. It's okay. It's not too bad. You just got to remember a couple of things. Just remember, we don't divide fractions. We multiply them. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. So I've got 1/2 divided by 3. First of all, if that's a fraction, I want this to be a fraction. So put a 1 underneath it. Now we got to remember something. Right. We are going to change from division to multiplying. So I'm going to write my 1/2 here, but I'm going to change it to times. And when I change it to times, the fraction right after that sign has to be flipped. So it was 3 over 1, so now it's 1 over 3. And now we can multiply. It's just 1's on the top, so I can't reduce. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 3 is 6. And we're done. Ta-da! So whenever you see division, the first thing you're going to do is ding, ding, ding. We're not dividing fractions. We are multiplying them. So that's what I'm going to do here also. I've got 21 over 36. Then I change it to multiplication. Once I change it to multiplication, I flip the next fraction. And now we're going to see if we can reduce anything. Well, 7 goes into 7 once, and 7 goes into 21 3 times. 9 goes into 9 once, and 9 goes into 36 4 times. 3 and 4 cannot be reduced, so I'm done. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 1 is 4. And you're done. Ta-da! Now, number 5, or not number 5, is the next problem. I thought that was a number 5, but it's not. Anyways, again, with mixed numbers, you need to change them to improper fractions before you divide, which means before you multiply, right? All right, so 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. So that's 16 thirds times, we've got to change this to times, and flip the second fraction. All right, now we're going to see what can we reduce. Well, 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 16 8 times. And then let's use a different color so you can see that they're different. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9 3 times. And 8 times 3 is 24. 1 times 1 is 1, so you just get 24. Okay. The next one, we've got 2 mixed numbers. My advice to you is before you change to multiplication, just worry about changing the mixed numbers to improper fractions. So 2 times 12 is 24. 24 plus 7 is 31. I'm going to leave it as division for now. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 3 is 8. Now that I've got the improper fractions, now I will make that change. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to change this. So I got 31 over 12 times 5 over 8. And I should have said this, if you are colorblind, there is an option to turn off the colors on this. So if you look on YouTube there, you should be able to turn off the colors. All right, let's take a look at this. 31, 31's prime. The only thing that goes into 31 is 1 and 31. So I can't do anything with the 31. 5 is also prime, and 5 doesn't go into 12 or 8. So I can't reduce anything here. So I'm just going to multiply. 31 times 5, 31 and 5, right? 15, 155. And 12 and 8. That gives us 96. I should have known that. I don't know why I did that. All right. Now, 155 divided by 96. That's an improper fraction. We can make it into a mixed number. So how many 96 will fit into 155? 1 will. So if I take 155 and I subtract 96, I get 59 left over. If you could reduce the 59 over 96, you would do that, but you shouldn't be able to if you've already reduced what you could in the actual problem. You shouldn't need to. And 59 is prime. 59 does not go into 96, so we can't reduce it. All right. But if you've done all the reducing in the actual problem, you shouldn't have to reduce at the end. All right, so there's division. And again, if you need more problems of these, just let me know. All right. And I will offer tutoring if you want to get a hold of me. And I'm pretty laid back, you guys. I'm sure you can see that with my videos. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to help you. So if you need help, just send me a message. I'd be happy to help. All right, let's go on here. So what do we got next? So we've done the multiplying and dividing of fractions. Now we got to do adding and subtracting. And the difference is, remember, for adding and subtracting, you have to have a common denominator. For multiplying and dividing, you do not. So that's something that you're going to want to keep track of. I like to do them vertically. Some people like to add them horizontally, which is fine, but I'm going to do them vertically because that's what I'm comfortable doing. So 2/3 plus 7/9. I always tell everyone, look at the bigger number for the denominators. We've got a 9 there. Will the other number go into that? Will 3 go into 9? Yes. So we're going to use 9 as our common denominator. So we're going to say our common denominator is 9. Okay. Now, 9 times 1 is 9. And 7 times 1 is 7. 3 times 3 is 9. And 3 times 2 is 6. So if you have 6 ninths and I give you 7 more ninths, how many ninths do you have altogether? You have 13 ninths. And now we got the bigger number on top, and that's called what? It's called an improper fraction. So we're going to change it to a what? A mixed number. And I keep repeating that because I did see that quite a bit on the practice test. So how many 9s can fit into 13? 1. Because 9 times 2 is 18. That's too big. It won't fit into 13. So 1 9 fits in there, and that leaves us with 4 left over. So 4 9s. And that's your final answer. All right. Let's take a look at the next one. We got 2 and 6/7, and we can leave it as a mixed number. To that, we want to add 5/10. Common denominator. I'm going to show you the easiest way to do it if you don't know how to find it. So first of all, the easiest way to do is to take the bigger number, the bottom numbers. We've got a 10 here. Will 10 go, or will 7 go into 10 evenly? No. So we cannot use 10. So the next easiest thing to do is just multiply your denominators together. Even if it's not the lowest, it'll work and you can reduce at the end. That will work every time. So 7 times 10 is 70. So I'm going to use 70 as my common denominator. Okay. So now 10 times 7 is 70. And 5 times 7 is 35. 7 times 10 is 70. And 7 times 6 is 60. Or, well, 7 times 6. 10 times 6 is 60. Oh, all right. Again, 10 times 7 is 70. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 10 is 70. And 10 times 6 is 60. I haven't touched this yet. We'll worry about that at the end. So now we are adding. If I give you 60 70ths and then I give you 35 more 70ths, how many 70ths do you have altogether? You have 95 70ths. So how many 70s can fit in there? One can fit in, because 70 times 2 is 140. That's too big. It won't fit into 95. And we have 25 left over. But are we done with this problem? No, because we cannot forget about this 2 here. We have to add the 2 and the 1. So the final answer is 3 and 25 over 70. Or is it? Remember how I told you that we could go with the biggest number that goes into both of them? Well, I can reduce that now, can't I? The 25 and the 70. What goes into both of those? If it ends in a 0 and a 5, 5 goes into both of them. All right. The numbers, the top and bottom, add in a 0 and a 5, just use 5. So I can reduce by 5. I can reduce by 5. And now my final answer will be 3. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 70 divided by 5, that's 114. So there's my final answer. All right. Ta-da! All right, we've done some adding. Now we've got to do some subtracting. So I've got 7/8. Oops, bad color for this. I like blue. Let's use blue. Shows up good. 7/8 minus 2/5. All right, again, if you look at the bigger number is an 8 when you look at the bottom numbers. Will 5 go into 8 evenly? No. So I can't use 8. The next easiest thing to do is to multiply the 2 together and use that. 8 times 5 is 40. So that's what we're using for our common denominator. And again, even if it's not the lowest, you can reduce at the end. But in this case, it is the lowest. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So now 5 times 8 is 40. And 8 times 2 is 16. And we're subtracting. 8 times 5 is 40. And 5 times 7 is 35. So now we just have to take 35 minus 16. 35 minus 16. And I want to keep practicing the subtraction with you. Got to borrow here. 5 and 1 makes 6, so I got 9. 2 minus 1 is 1, so 19. So I get 19 over 40. And we're done. I can't reduce it. Ta-da! All right, let's take a look at the next one. We've got 3 and 1/3 minus 1 and 5/11. Now, again, the bigger bottom number, denominator, is 11. Will 3 go into 11 evenly? No. That's the bigger number. Will the other one go into it evenly? No. So then what's the easiest thing to do? Multiply them together. 33. And that actually is the lowest for this anyways. All right. So then we ask ourselves, 11 times what is 33? 11 times 3 is 33. And then take that 3 times the top, 15. And we're subtracting. Now, 3 times 11 is 33, and 11 times 1 is 11. But now we have some issues here. I'm actually going to write this over here again so we see it better. So I have this right now. I have 3. Oh, I don't like that color. You guys, we got to change that color. No, no, no. I can't see it good enough. Got to go with a lighter color. Let's go with light green. So I've got 3 and 11 over 33 minus 1 and 15 over 33. Now I can't take the 11 minus 15, so I've got to borrow from that 3. And I'm going to show you the easy way to do this. So we're going to make that 3 into a 2. And then you're just going to add these two numbers together. 11 and 33 is 44. Put it on the common denominator. That's all you got to do. Take one away and add those two together. Now you can subtract them. 44 minus 15. 44, take away 15. What is that? I'm not sure if you guys can use a calculator at all. So if I were to do it, 44 minus 15, borrow 1, need 4 more, or we need 1 more, I mean, and then 2, so 29. So we get 29 over 33, and then 2 take away 1 is 1. All right. So if you could just remember that one step here, we got 11 minus 15. So I've got 11 over 33. I borrow 1 from the 3, and I just add those two together. 11 and 33, just 1 and 3 and 1 and 3. So 44 over 33. And then 44 minus 15, we can do that. All right. If you need more practice with that, let me know, and I will gladly do some more problems. We're going to do well on this test, all right? Got to keep your positive attitude with this. Say you can do it. And again, no matter what the results, you learned. But I think you're going to be fine. Positive, right? So the next one, we got 6 and 1/5 minus 3/4. I haven't done division in that in a long time. I do the adding and subtracting in that, but like long division in that, I haven't done that in years. So it's good practice for me too. All right. So again, what are we going to do for a common denominator? So we're going to look at the bigger number, remember, which is 5. Will the smaller number go into that evenly? No, 4 will not go into 5 evenly. So the next easiest thing to do is to multiply the denominators together. And as we've been saying, it doesn't always mean it's the lowest that they both go into, but it works. All right. So now we ask ourselves, 4 times what is 20? Well, 4 times 5 is 20. And 5 times 3 is 15. And we're subtracting. 5 times 4 is 20. And 4 times 1 is 4. Now we've got, and I'm going to rewrite the problem down here so that you can see it better. We've got 6 and 4 over 20 minus 15 over 20. Now we can't take the 4 over 20 minus 15 over 20, so we've got to borrow 1 again. So I'm going to change that to a 5. And when I do that, then do you remember what to do over here? Just add those two numbers together. And you get 24 over 20. All right. Now you can subtract them. I don't like that color either because it's so light on this part of the board. So now 24 minus 15, what does that give you? 9. Oops, that's a bad color too. I need to pick a light color. Let's go back to white. 9 over 20, or always over the common denominator. So 24, take away 15 is 9, and then bring down the 5 up front. And there's your answer. All right. How are we doing? Okay, I purposely did one with a whole number also. A whole number, just a number without a decimal, but it's positive numbers. All right. So let's take a look at the next one. I'm actually going to write this next one down here. I've got 7 minus 2 and 5/8. So what we're going to do to start with, we're going to take that 7 and we're going to borrow 1 from it. So we're going to make that 7 into a 6. And then I'm going to look at the denominator of the other fraction. It's an 8. And I'm going to make this 8/8. Because a number divided by itself is 1, and 1 plus 6 makes 7. So the whole 7 is still there. All right? So look at the denominator, and that's what you're going to put it over. So if that denominator was a 4, I put 4/4 over up here. If the denominator for that bottom number was a 3, I'd do 3/3. All right? Now we can subtract them. 8/8 take away 5/8 is 3/8. And 6 take away 2 is 4. And you're done. Ta-da! How are we doing? Everybody doing okay? All right, let's move on. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is percents and multiplying them. The first thing I want you to know is that whenever you see the word of in math, that means multiply. All right, so that's what we're looking at. So it says 16% of 30. So right away, ding, 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 that of means times. We need to change 16% to a decimal. 16% is the same thing as 16/100. So to change 16% to a decimal, just move the decimal back 2 places. Remember when I told you that if you have a number and there's no decimal, it's at the end. That's one of the reasons I told you that, is because I wanted you to see that when we got here. So if I want to change 16% to a decimal, I'm going to take that decimal and move it 2 places to the left. It's like dividing by 100. Like I have up here 16/100. That's 16 divided by 100, which is 0.16. Of means times, and I'm going to use a dot for times. 30. You can use the times or X if you want, but I'm just so used to using the dot for the classes I teach. All right, now you need to do 0.16 times 30. And I want you to think, if it's multiple choice, does your answer make sense? Well, if it was 50%, that would be what? That'd be half of it. That would be 15. You're looking for a small percentage here. So just remember that. If you wanted 10%, that would be 3. So it's more than 10%, less than 50%. Kind of look at that. Does your answer make sense? So I'm going to do the multiplying just for practice for you. So again, how do we do that? We do 30 times 16. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 3 is 18. Then we put our placement here, an X, whatever you want to put there. I'll put an X, okay? And then 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 3 is 3. And when I combine those, I get 480. Now, we have 2 decimal places. Remember that we got to go back and look at that decimal now. We got 2 decimal places we had 2 decimal places to get to the end. So we have to go to the end here and go back 2 places. So what is our answer? 4.8. And if you can do that on a calculator, that's awesome. Save you some time. So the answer here is 4.8. The answer makes sense. So always think, does your answer make sense? Let's take a look at the next one. We want 25% of 90. So the first thing you're going to do is take that 25% and change it to a decimal. There's no decimal, so it's at the end. So to change it to a decimal, you move back 2 places. So it's 0.25. Of means, you know, it means times 90. Okay? And let's do the math again, just in case you have to do it. It's good practice. So 90 times 25. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 9 is 45. Then we got that placement. 2 times 0 is 2. 2 times 9 is 18. So I got 0, 5, 8 and 4 is 12. Carry the 1, 2. Now we've got 2 decimal places, so we go back 2 places. So the answer is 2250. All right. Does your answer make sense? Well, 25% is a fourth of it. So if you take 90 divided by 4, you're going to get 2250. Half of 90 is 45, so the answer has to be less than 45. So think like that when you're doing this. 0.5% of 90. So 1/2 is 0.5, right? So we need to take 0.5% and change it to a decimal. Think about that for a second. 0.5% and change it to a decimal. So what are we going to do? Going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. Write it right here. 1, 2. So now we have 0.005 of means times 9. Okay? How are we doing? Now we're just going to say 9 times 5 is 45, but we've got to move the decimal 1, 2, 3 places. 1, 2, 3. So my answer is 0.045. Oops, don't forget that point there. Okay. Small answer. We're looking for a tiny percentage of that. It is a tiny number to start with. So always ask yourself, does the answer make sense? So take a look at the next one. Maybe pause the video and try it yourself. So we want 2.5% of 24. So what should I do? Think about it for a second. Go ahead and change that percent to a decimal. Okay, so you did that, right? So you move the decimal 2 places to the left. 1, 2. And you get 0.025. Right? And what does of mean again? Of means times. Okay, 24. So now we got to multiply that. So I'm going to ignore the decimal there. So it's really 25 times 24. And when I do that, that's 20, carry up the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 is 10. Now, here's my spacing. You got to move over one when you do the next number. 5 times 2 is 10, carry up the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And when I add that, I got to change the color so we can see it. I don't know how I got that, that's for sure. I get 600, but I have to go back 1, 2, 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. So the answer is 0.6. So when you multiply that, you're going to get 0.6. So 2.5% of 24 is 0.6. Think about it. 10% would be what? 2.4. And we got smaller than that. So think of, does your answer make sense? All right, where are we going next? We are going to change decimals to fractions. This isn't too bad, you guys. So all you have to do, when I look at 0.2, put the 2 on the top. To bring that decimal to the end, you move 1 spot. So add 1 0, and then just reduce it. 2 into 2, 2 into 10, 1/5. Let's take a look at the next one. This is a mixed number. You're going to have 2, and then I got 35 over, I got 1, 2 spots to bring it over, so I'm going to use 2 zeros. You see what I'm doing there? Here, 1 to bring it to the end, so I added 1 0. Here, 2 to bring it to the end, so I add 2 zeros. So I can reduce that 35 over 100. Remember what I said, if they end in a 5 and a 0, 5 goes into them. So let's do that. I got to change the color though. So divide by 5, divide by 5. And I get 2. 35 divided by 5 is 7. 100 divided by 5 is 20. And you're done. So the next one, put the number on top. And we've got 2 places, so 2 zeros. They end in a 5 and a 0, so I'm going to divide the top and bottom by 5 to start with. When I do that, 45 divided by 5 is 9. 100 divided by 5 is 20. It does help if you know your multiplication tables, you guys, and I would suggest if you don't know them to get some flashcards and really practice them, because it will save you a lot of time. 22 and 15.15, so that's going to be 22. And if I were to read that, that's 22 and, the decimal means and 15 hundredths. It's 2 places, so it's 2 zeros. So it's 22 and 15 hundredths. Now the 15 over 100 I can reduce. Again, they both end in a 5 or a 0, so I can divide by 5. So I get 22. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 100 divided by 5 is 20. And there you go. Now, the next ones, change them to a decimal. So there's different ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do them. You can just do 4 divided by 5, because a fraction is just division, right? So if you want to read that, it's 4 divided by 5, right? Or you can just make the bottom 100. How would I have to make the bottom 100? I have to multiply 5 times 20 to make it 100. If I'm going to multiply the bottom by 20, I got to multiply the top by 20, and I get 80. So then all you have to do, 80 over 100 is the same thing as 0.80, right? Because I just showed you that. 2 decimal places, 2 zeros. So 0.80. Now that's easy when the denominator can be multiplied to make it 100. If it's not, then I would just divide them out. So the next one, 2 and 3/5. I'm not going to worry about that 2 right now, but again, I can make this 100. So I get 60 over 100, which is 0.6. So that's going to be the same thing as 2.6 or 0.60, however you want to write it. And then the last one, first of all, let's make that improper fraction into a mixed number. So how many 10s go in there? 10 can go in there. 1 times 35, 13 times. That's 130. And we got 5 left over. And then we can reduce 5 and 10, right? 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 10 twice. And 1/2 is 0.5 as a decimal. So it's 13.5. And if you don't remember that 1/2 is 0.5, we can do it the other way too. 1/2, well, I know 2 times 50 is 100, so multiply the top and bottom by 50. And then you just move the decimal 2 places over, and it's 0.50. If you want to put the 0 there, you can. You don't have to. So it's 13.5 or 13.50, however you want to write it. All right. And just remember, a fraction is division. It's the top number, the numerator, divided by the bottom number, the denominator. The numerator divided by the denominator. So number 3, 135 tenths is the same thing as 135 divided by 10. All right. Let's take a look at these next ones. We're going to do them a little different. I'm sure if if you haven't been out of high school too long, you probably heard of P over 100 equals is over us of. I'm not going to use that. We're going to use what we know already. So the first thing I want you to do, whenever you see a percent, you change it to a decimal. And how do you do that? You move the decimal 2 places to the left. So right now we've got the number 20. Remember, the decimal's at the end. So we move it 2 places to the left. So 20% as a decimal is 0.20. Of means times and is means equals. So it's going to equal 14. What number? We don't know what that is, so we're going to call it something. Let's call it, I don't know, call it X if you want, or whatever you want. So we got 20 times 0.20 times X, which is 0.20X equals 14. If I were to read that, that's 0.20 times X equals 14. To solve that, you would divide both sides by 0.20. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other, if you remember listening to that. So take a look at that. All right. So I got 20%. I changed it to a decimal. Of means times. What number we're looking for is 14. So now it's 0.20 times X equals 14. We're going to divide by 0.20 to find out what that number is. And the number is 70. If you take 14 divided by 0.20, you're going to get 70. All right. So 20% of 70 is 14. Half of 70 is 35. So we know we're on the right track. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. 36 is what percent? I don't know what this is. I'll call it what percent. Use P or X or whatever you want. Of means times again, remember. Is equals, of is times. 50. Oops, I put an equal there instead of a times. Times 50. Now, if I want to solve this, I'm going to say I want to find out what P is. So right now we have 36 equals P times 50. They're timesing by 50, so we're going to divide. And when we do that, we're going to get P equals, I'm using my calculator right now, 0.72. And so now it's a decimal. So now we've got to make it a percent. So to change it to a decimal, we went 2 places to the left. So to change it to a percent, we go 2 places to the right. It's the same thing as multiplying by 100. So it's 72%. It's more than half, so you better get more than 50%, right? So think of it like that. Does your answer make sense? Okay, let's take a look at the next one. It says 3.5, so that's 3.5%. We need to change that right away to a decimal. And to do that, we move that decimal 2 places to the left. So I'm going to do that right away. 1, 2. So now I got 0.035. Of means times 42. Is means equals. What number? We'll just call that X. So all I have to do is take 42 times 0.035. And I get X equals 1.47. It's a tiny percentage, right? Does your answer make sense? Are we okay there? All right, maybe pause the video and try the last one on your own before I do it with you. I'm going to wait a second in case you're trying to pause the video before I start it. Okay, I'm going to do it now. So 2%, remember, there's no decimal, it's at the end. We've got to change it, that percent, to a decimal by moving it 2 places to the left. So it's 0.02 as a decimal. Of means times. 16. Is means equals. what number? So we got 0.02 times 16. So 2% of 16 is what number? Well, if you think about it, 10% is 1.6. So it's got to be less than that. Much less than that because it's farther down. So x equals, when you multiply that, you're going to get 0.32. So 2% of 16 is 0.32. Does your answer make sense? Please keep that in your head. Does the answer make sense? You're going to be fine. All right. Let's see. We have one more page to do. Let's do the last page here. All right. I took this conversion table from one of the practice tests. So we're going to use it to do these next problems, and we're going to convert some. So I want 6.25 kilograms to pounds. So let's go over here. Kilograms to pounds. Each one of those kilograms is 2.205 pounds. So I need to take 6.2 and times it by 2.205. And when I do that, 6.2 times 2.205. When we do that, we get 13.671. So that's how many pounds it is. All right. So find the one that you're looking for, find the conversion you're looking for first. We want chains and rods. Each rod is 0.25 of a chain. So how are we going to do that? If I got 6 chains, that's going to be how many rods? 6 chains. So if we have 6 chains and we want to know how many rods that is, well, we need 4 chains to make 1 rod, right? So 6 times 4 is 24. So we're going to need 24 rods. Does that make sense? 6 chains is 24 rods. So if I take that 6, another way you can do it is each 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, right? Each one of those 0.25s is 1 rod, right? So that's 4, and you got 6 times that. So 6 times 4 is 24. I don't know if that helps you or not. Okay, acres to square feet. So here's our acres to square feet. Now, 1 acre is 43,560 square feet. We've got 5 of them. So we need to multiply that by 5. So 43560 times 5 equals, that would be 217,800 square feet. Each acre is 47,560, and we've got 5 acres. All right, next we've got to go to slugs and kilograms. 1 slug is 14.59 kilograms. So if we take 30 and we divide it by 14.59, that should tell me how many slugs we have, because each slug is 14.59 kilograms. So 13 divided by 14.59 gives us about 2.056, I'll round it to, slugs. Okay, so each slug is 14.59 kilograms. Now we got to go from fathoms to feet. Where do we have fathoms and feet out on here? 1 fathom is 6 feet. We've got 32 fathoms, so we got to take 32 times 6. 192 feet. And then lastly, we're going to go from pints to quarts. From pints to quarts. All right, so now we've got 20 pints is how many quarts? Well, every pint is a half a quart. So all I have to do is take 20 divided by 2, and that'll tell me how many quarts we have. We'll have 10 quarts. Use what they give you. Don't just guess on your answers. Okay, let's go over here. I saw a few of these on your test too, so I wanted to cover these also. These are just evaluating. So you're just trying to find the value of B. You're solving for B. All right, so I got to find a different color. I got to find a lighter color. So A is 4, so let's put that in for A. But I want to read this to you first. It's 3 times the A times, in parentheses, B plus C, or the quantity B plus C, equals B times the quantity negative A plus 2C. We want to know what B is. So I'm going to first of all replace the letters with the numbers. So it's 3 times A, so it's 3 times 4. And then we got B plus C is 7 equals B. And then we got negative A, negative 4, plus 2 times C. So I just put the numbers in that I know are represented by the letters. So let's simplify this. 3 times 4 is 12. That's all I'm going to do here so far. Over here, we have, this is 14. So we got negative 4 plus 14, which is 10. All right. On the left side, we have to do what we call distributing. So I need to go 12 times B is 12B plus 12 times 7, which is 84. And on the right side, B times 10 is 10B. All right. So I'm just trying to get it down to getting the B's together, first of all, and then finding what B equals. So I'm going to get all the B's on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to bring that 12B to the other side. To bring it to the other side, you just change the sign. It's a positive 12B, so we're going to subtract 12B. When I do that, those are gone. I can bring down the 84 equals 10 B's, take away 12 B's. 12 is bigger and it's negative, so it's going to be a negative. 12 take away 10 is 2. So now we're asking ourselves, negative 2 times what is 84? Well, the easiest thing to do is divide by negative 2. And B, the signs are different. This is a plus and that's a minus, so it's negative. 84 divided by 2 is 42. So B would be negative 42. Okay, let's do one more like that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the numbers in for the letter. So it's 3 times X times the quantity Z minus Y equals 3 times X times Y times the quantity Z plus 2X. So I got 3 times X Z minus Y equals 3 times X times Y Z plus 2X. So I just replaced the X's and Y's. That's all I've done. Now 3 times 4 is 12. Z minus 2 equals 3 times 4 is 12 times 2 is 24. Z plus 2 times 4 is 8. Okay. You could divide both sides by 12, but I'm not going to do that because I think that might be confusing for some people. I don't want to change what I've been doing. So we're just going to multiply it through. 12 times Z is 12Z. A positive times a negative is a negative. 12 times 2 is 24. 24 times Z is 24Z. Plus 24 times 8 is 192. Now we're going to get all of our Z's on one side and all of our constants, the numbers without Z's, on the other. And it's not difficult to do. Just watch what we're doing here. So if I want to put all the Z's together, I'm going to take this positive 12Z and move it to the other side by subtracting it. You could have brought the 24Z over. It doesn't matter. So let's just do that first. Then these are gone. So I got negative 24 equals 12z plus 192. The goal is to solve for z. So I'm going to box that out because that's the last thing I'm going to worry about. Now that I brought the z's to the right, I'm going to bring the numbers without the z to the left. We could have done the opposite. It doesn't matter. But whatever way you go, we're going to go the opposite for the other one. So I brought the z's all to the right, so I'm going to bring the 192 to the left. So first of all, 192 is bigger than 24. It's negative. The answer is going to be negative. Since the signs are the same, you're just combining them. I got 192 negatives and 24 more negatives. That gives me 216 negatives. These are gone. That equals 12z. And when I don't want 12z, I want z. So they're timesing by 12, so I'm going to divide by 12. And when you do that, a negative divided by positive is a negative. 216 divided by 12 is 18. And you're done. These are more difficult. And again, we can do more of those if you'd like. I wanted to make sure I covered it because I did see it on the practice test. And then finally, the last thing I want to do is just solve a few equations with you. All right. So let's just go ahead and solve these. So whatever the letter is, that's what you're solving for. So my letter is X. I'm going to box that off and worry about that last. You have two sides to an equation, the left side and the right side. The goal is to get the letter by itself. So anything on the same side with the letter, we want to move it to the other side. So that -4, I want to get rid of it. The only way to get rid of it, they're subtracting, so we add. Do the opposite. So I got 2x equals 26, because those will cancel. Okay. You see that -4 and 4 is gone. All right, now I got 2 times x is 26. I don't want 2 times x. I want x. They're timesing by 2, so we're going to divide. A number divided by itself is just 1. And 26 divided by 2 is 13. So our answer is 13. And you can check and see if you got it right. So if it's multiple choice, you can just put the numbers in if you want. So I'm saying x is 13, so I got 2 times x. So 2 times 13, that's 26. 26 take away 4 is 22, so my answer works. So think of it like that. The next one. On the left, I have a lonely fraction, so I'm going to make the right a fraction. Now you got what's called a proportion. And the easiest way to solve a proportion is to cross multiply. Always start up at the left. I'm going to get a different color here. So x times 1 is x equals, bring down the equal sign, and then multiply the other two numbers. 6 times 9 is 54, and you're done. Here was the original problem. I want to make sure you can see it. And then I just put the 9 over 1. And then you cross multiply. So whenever you have a fraction equal to a fraction, that's when you want to cross multiply. And then this last one. You see how we got 3 terms on the left side? The terms are separated by plus or minus signs. So I'm going to simplify that side because it's a little messy right now. And I can do that because I know that 2x's and 4x's give me 6x's. Now we have the same thing we had in the first problem we did. I'm going to box off the variable, the letter, term, and we're going to move anything outside that box to the other side of the equal sign. It's a -8, so we're going to add 8. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other because we got to stay balanced. There's an equal sign there. So they got to stay balanced. Bring down your 6x. 10 plus 8 is 18. That -8 and the 8 cancel. That's what we want to see happen. We want those to go away. Now, we got 6 times x equals 18. And we know 6 times 3 is 18, so x is 3. Same thing as dividing by 6. And there you go. So if you would like more problems like this, let me know. Just put a comment down below. And again, the next video I'm going to do is going to be on sine, cosine, and tangent because I see that you need to know that. And it will be on some geometry because there's a little bit of geometry on there. So breathe, enjoy, and remember, math is beautiful. We use it every day all over, even when we don't realize it. I hope you have an awesome day. And if I can help you, please let me know. Thank you. Mm.